Does someone with 3 years at Bain and product management experience at a leading tech company need an MBA? Why? And how is she managing to balance the demands of Wharton's rigorous MBA program with her own brand new startup? Let's find out during today's show. Welcome to the 329th episode of Admissions Straight Talk, Accepted's podcast dedicated to graduate admissions and helping you approach the application process thoughtfully and successfully. I'm Linda Abraham, the founder of Accepted and the host of this podcast. My mission and passion is to help you show that you both fit in at your target schools and are a standout in the applicant pool. The result? You get a message one day that causes you to jump up and down shouting, "Yes, I'm in!" And not only in, but in at the best program for you. Today's featured resource is Accepted's webinar, Get Accepted to Wharton. Yikes, Wharton's round 1 deadline is next week, September 17th. If you're thinking, hey, I thought that webinar was last month and I missed it, even though you know the deadline is next week, you missed the live event, but you can still access the great content in the webinar recording. Learn what Wharton is looking for and how you can present it in your application, whether it's next week's deadline or the round 2 deadline in January. Access the webinar at accepted.com/329webinar. Our guest today is Andie Kaplan, who graduated from UVA with a bachelor's in commerce and math and minors in IT and business analytics. I guess she's a numbers geek. Upon graduation, she went to work for Bain for 3 years. In 2017, she joined Squarespace as a data scientist and later was promoted to senior data scientist and product analytics team lead. She left Squarespace in 2018 to join Wharton's class of 2020. And at Wharton, she founded Connect Ed, which we'll learn more about during the podcast, along with her story. Andie, welcome to Admissions Straight Talk.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you decided to go to UVA, that kind of stuff?
Sure. So I'm living in Philadelphia now. I'm actually from the Philadelphia area as well. Okay. So I grew up in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. I went to Plymouth Whitemarsh High School, which was a large public high school. And when it came time to go to college, I knew that I wanted to study business. And so I was looking at undergraduate business programs, which is what led me to UVA's McIntyre School.
Sure. Okay, so let's fast forward. You worked at Bain, and you were then at Squarespace, and you decide to apply. You have a prestigious undergraduate business school on your record. You have 2 fantastic jobs. What was the hardest part of the MBA application process for you?
You know, it's a very individual experience. And yes. For me, the hardest part was I wasn't sure when I was first applying whether or not I wanted to go to school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think that people go to business school for a host of different reasons. And as you said, I did study business in undergrad, and I'd worked in management consulting, and then I led a team at a tech company. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I was going for the reasons that I knew why I wanted to be there and what I was going to get out of it. And so a lot of the process, you go through a lot of soul searching as to when you're writing these applications, why you want to be at school. And so for me, it was really checking the reasons for why I was going to school.
And what were those reasons? Because one of the questions I have for you is, given your undergraduate degree, the fantastic training that you would have gotten at Bain, not to mention the work experience following it, and then the experience at Squarespace, why did you need an MBA?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I studied business and analytics in undergrad, and then I spent the last 5 years of my career really building those out in the workforce. And so I was very fortunate to start at Bain, where I got to apply those across a variety of industries and a variety of types of industries, and then go to Squarespace, where I was able to work inside a company and lead business analytics from that standpoint. And so it wasn't to further my business analytics understanding, though I know that is one driver for a lot of people. But for me, I knew I wanted to start a company. And so when I'd been in undergrad, I'd always been interested in business, but for a lot of those years, I was thinking more about leading an established company. Mm-hmm. So it was in the last few years that I was really convinced I wanted to start a company. And when I thought about entrepreneurship, I know there's a lot of people who will say, if you have an idea, just go do it. But I wasn't sure what that looked like to me. And I wanted to put myself in an environment where I would have the opportunity to really flesh out an idea and work with classmates and professors and the people in that community to take it from an idea to execution.
Okay. And I guess that desire to start your own business and to have the broader skill set is what led you to decide to pursue the MBA, right?
Yeah, for me it was, twofold. So specifically to be able to further the entrepreneurship skill set,
Right.
it was something I hadn't looked at as much in undergrad, and I wanted the opportunity to really flesh out what that looked like. And then I wanted to be part of the community and the network to help me bring that to reality.
Okay. So you're now at Wharton. Are you finding that Wharton provides what you were looking for?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier, I'm very excited to say that we founded and launched ConnectEd, which I look forward to sharing more about. It's been great to be here at Wharton this past year. I think that one of the reasons that I ultimately chose Wharton when I was evaluating my business school options was it has a very flexible curriculum and it allowed me to start right away. So as somebody that did study business in undergrad, I waived a lot of those core requirements. I was able to take those classes to help me flesh out the idea for ConnectEd early on. And it's been great to work with fellow classmates and faculty in furthering the idea.
Okay. And what would you like to see? Well, I guess I have two questions. What do you like best at Wharton, and what do you think needs to be improved at Wharton?
So I think if you ask anyone, they'll say that the best part is the people that you're surrounded by. So
Okay.
I have such talented and diverse classmates, and that's what really brings the whole experience to life. So the friendships that I made, the network that I will keep in touch with both now and forever. When I think about entrepreneurship in particular, for me, it was the ability to start right away. So I can't underestimate how important that was, especially for our idea where it really depended on a large enterprise contract. We needed to be able to start when we did in August, or we wouldn't have had a company now the way that we do.
And what would you like to see improved at Wharton?
Yeah, there's always many things that people both love and would change.
Yeah, any place, any human venture can be improved.
Absolutely. I think to the point that I loved, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Wharton's strength is its flexibility, but as a result, there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things at any given time. And so entrepreneurship is just one of the very many interests that people have. And so I think you have to really pursue it a lot more on your own than maybe you would somewhere where a lot of people are all doing it at the same time. And so it's very much you're on your own pace. And I think if I were to change the experience I had, what would have been nice is to be surrounded by people who are sort of at the same stage that I was at different times. It's great to be able to bounce ideas off of anyone, and people have experience to contribute, whether from this past year or their previous walks of life, but it is an individual process.
Okay. All right. Now, you arrived at Wharton knowing you wanted to start a business, and it sounds like you also knew you wanted to start it while in B-school. Is that correct?
Both correct, yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell us how did you come to Wharton knowing you wanted to start ConnectEd as your business, or did you just know you wanted to start a business but not know what it was? How did you settle on ConnectEd, and what is ConnectEd? Let's start there.
Start with what ConnectEd is.
Yeah, let's start with that, and then you can go back a little bit.
So ConnectEd Mobile, we're a new telecommunications service that offers family plan cell phone service prices direct to individuals, specifically targeting incoming international students. So we're able to offer that family plan rate to a student. Typically, international students come in, they don't have domestic families with whom to sign up for cell phone service, nor do they have the social security numbers, which are a requirement for these postpaid plans. And so an individual with the same exact plan has to spend 2.5 times what it costs someone on a family plan. Wow. And so we're able to reach this segment of the market that currently wasn't able to be served by the existing offerings. So how did we come up with it? So I was pretty sure that I wanted to start a business in business school, but I wasn't sure exactly what that looked like. And so I'd been thinking through ideas in that summer beforehand. I'd always kept a running list. And so it was nice to, go back and say, what are the ones that keep me really excited? And so this was it started as a different idea, as many do, just to be able to share your recurring shared payments. So whether you were sharing Hulu with a bunch of people or Netflix with a bunch of people, a way to centralize your share of a payment. And it really spun from there where we said, well, what is the one that has the most pain and frustration? And it was cell phone plans. And so I had this idea coming into school because when you get in, you join the incoming student group. And so the community starts before that first day of school. And it was seeing all of the chatter from my international classmates saying, does anyone have a spot in their family plan? Does anyone have a spot in their family plan? And I was like, there is
There's a need there.
A need. There's a market for whom this isn't just a slight frustration of sharing payments, but they actually don't have access to a major requirement in this day and age, which is cell phone service. And so before the first day of school, I had the idea pretty well centered in my head of who I wanted to reach. But I spent the next few months working with classmates and faculty to flesh out how would this come about in reality. So was it going to be a marketplace? Or how are we going to be able to do this offering? What did the landscape look like? And how could we start to move from the idea phase into execution?
So you had this idea the summer before you started at Wharton. You arrive at Wharton with the idea. I mean, what do you do then? What did you do then? Let's put it that way.
So I arrived with the idea, but as you can imagine, starting business school, there is a lot going on. So I was able to say, I have an idea and I'm going to work on it. And what was really great was I said that up front to students. So I think that something that people do is they try to keep their ideas to themselves because they're not sure about them. And it's a little scary the first time you said it. But it was my first week of school and I was like, I have an idea that I'm going to be pursuing. And I started sharing what it was so people knew about it. And as a result, a lot of people who had this pain point were happy to give me more information about their experience and their opinions. And I was able to start with informal research. And then I took a few of those classes up front. One was the Intro to Entrepreneurship, where I worked with a group of students and saying, this is the problem that we want to solve. What is the right way to solve it? And so we really toggled back and forth. Should there be a marketplace where people can find each other? If you do that, you don't have control over the experience. And ultimately, what we landed on is what we are today. So we are resellers. We work with the nation's largest 4G LTE network to resell their offering. So we were able to essentially provide access to this customer segment onto this network's plan. So we're able to unlock an opportunity for this network as well as make a much better experience for these customers.
And how much is ConnectEd saving its customers? Or is it more a matter of convenience?
It's actually both.
Okay.
So I would say those are the two biggest points. So one is, as you said, the price, and the second, I would say it's convenience as well as making it easy when somebody's getting started. So our prices start at $22.99 a month, which is the lowest that you'll find in the industry. If you think about, that's for our 2 gig plan. For our higher plan, that starts at $33.99 a month. And if you were to look at the other networks for that same offering, they're charging $70 to $80. Wow. It is a huge savings.
It is huge. So what you've basically done is created an enormous family plan for the customers of ConnectEd. Am I simplifying it grossly here? But
no, we say the same thing. So the way you can think about it is we run one large unlimited family plan.
Wow.
Where we're everyone a seat onto that plan, and they're not liable for anyone else on that plan. So the difficulties right now, if you were to walk into a store and get your own family plan, you need one admin with a social security number who is responsible for the payment for that full plan. And so some of our classmates were doing this, and they were forming groups of 12 people to go in. It's a total hassle. You have to be there at the same time. Only one person can pay. They have to collect the payment from everyone each month. And especially for international students, they're making international phone calls. So everyone has a different monthly amount for those fees. Some people have phones, some people have phone insurance. You can imagine it's quite a headache each month. And so we essentially are giving somebody a seat on that plan where their contract is just for themselves, and they don't have to worry about anyone else on the plan. They can be on their own schedule, their own plan. There's different levels. They're choosing the flexibility of what they want, and we're operating at a scale that we can offer everyone what they want.
That's fantastic. Now, are you on the hook to the? I assume you're on the hook to the telecommunications company if somebody doesn't pay you. But all right, that's the risk of business, right?
Yeah, and the way that we're structured is we have everyone prepay for their service, and so having every customer prepay, whether that's for a monthly plan, a 3-month plan, or an annual plan, we're able to keep the rates as low as we do.
And your risks down, of course, also, which is fantastic. I was, in preparing for the call, I was looking at obviously at Connect Ed, and I was impressed with the prices. And my daughter is planning a trip to Europe, and I said, hey, look at this. Maybe you should consider this. It doesn't work for her because she's an American going to Europe, and I don't think that's really what you intended for. But it makes,
captured quite a few guys. So we offer free data abroad as part of our networks, network plans. It's meant to be used while traveling as opposed to living somewhere permanently. But it's great. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of travel in the MBA experience. And so that free data abroad has actually convinced a lot of people who were already set up with different phone providers to move over.
Right. Sounds good. Now, again, going back to how Wharton has helped you. So you had the intro into entrepreneurship, where I guess you worked on I guess your idea and how to get it going. How else has Wharton helped you? Has the Penn Wharton Entrepreneurship VIP Xcelerate program been a factor or been an aid to you? Any other elements at Wharton? Are you going for funding? How's it going?
So we're bootstrapped right now, and so that's our plan for the future. And what's been nice is there have been a lot of smaller opportunities to earn non-dilutive funding throughout the year. And so I'm in as you mentioned, the VIPX Xcelerate program this summer, which is for 5 participants, and it comes with a higher non-dilutive grant, which is great to be able to apply to that. I would say for us in particular, there was a professor, Professor Borghese, who is a practicing attorney in Philadelphia. And so his mentorship and his guidance when we were thinking through what is the way that we want to operate, how do we work with a network provider, was just so valuable in getting started. And it was his encouragement, which was really helpful when we were way back in the early phase of thinking through, we know where we are now, we know where we want to be, but what is the mechanism that will allow us to solve this problem?
Okay. You talk in the plural, we, so I assume you have partners?
So I am the sole founder, but I have a network of people who are helping the venture as well for different areas.
Okay, great. And how do you manage the demands of business school and running a business?
Sure. So business school is demanding, but the advice that I would give to somebody, regardless of what they're interested in, whether that's starting a business or not, is to think through what are their priorities. And so for me in particular, starting a business was one of the two, and the other was creating lifelong friendships. So I knew I was going to be moving to somewhere in a new city, and I wanted to make sure that I was investing in the people that I was going to be spending the time with. You'll notice that I didn't say academics and I didn't say recruiting. For me, that was helpful that I wasn't recruiting for a consulting job or an investment banking job, which would have taken a lot of time. And I wasn't I was interested in a lot of the entrepreneurship classes. So I was able to apply those directly to the business I was starting. Um, I think you just have to be really specific about what your goals are. And so there's definitely times that you'll have to take yourself out of an opportunity to do something else. And that's just part of the experience.
It's part of life too.
That's part of life, absolutely. So it's just when you're making a choice of priorities, knowing how you're prioritizing and why.
All right. Now, Connect Ed obviously is a telecommunications, cell phone company on some level. Your experience was not in cell phones or even in telecommunications. Has that been a problem for you?
No, I think it's been a really great experience because from somebody who's stepping into a new industry, you're able to come in without preconceived notions and be able to bring new ideas into the space. And so I had worked in consulting for a few years as well, where I had the opportunity to work across industries. And after a certain amount of time, you're going back into industries, but for the first time, it's always new. And so there's a really great experience where you're getting up to speed in a new industry and you're learning how it works, but you're also taking what you've seen in a different industry and applying it. And so I worked in e-commerce, I've worked in direct to consumer, and I worked on online web platforms. And I was able to say, and I've had a cell phone service, right? We all have cell phones. What are the things that I really like about this experience, and what are the things that I think should be better, and where have I seen them be better? And so it was really the combination of those experiences. I worked at Squarespace in particular, which is a website builder, and so I know how easy it is in today's day and age to actually spin up an e-commerce business. And so I was able to say, if I were a new customer, what would I want my experience to be? I know that I don't want to have to figure out how I'm signing up with a bunch of people at the same time. And I might not want to have to find a store. And what is the experience I want? And let's build backwards.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you're not doing recruiting this year. No, but what are your plans for the future?
For myself or Connect Ed or both? Because right now we're the same thing. So we're really excited. So we spent the entire year getting the relationship with the network provider that we have. And so we spent this first summer bringing on our first set of customers, which has been incredibly exciting and rewarding. And I think the best part for me has been the reactions and the feedback that we've gotten from customers. I would say almost 50% sent us an email thanking us for the customer service, which is just incredible. You never hear that from a telecom provider.
I can't imagine the last time I ever thought of giving that kind of feedback to telecom's provider either.
And I think that really speaks to who we're serving. So we're reaching people who are moving to the US for the first time, which is an incredibly overwhelming experience. And we're providing them access to something that's historically been really challenging, whether that's with extremely high financial deposits to access something without a social security number or
credit history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you need multiple people. And so we're taking an experience that's really overwhelming and we're able to make one aspect of that much easier. And so to be able to just have Google Maps at your fingertips or the ability to look something up when you're brand new to a city is huge. And so we're able to give people that opportunity right away. And so this summer, we've been bringing on our first customers. We're really excited to be spending the year automating our platform, really building out the capabilities so that a lot of what we've been doing more manually this summer will be automated and will allow us to scale to many more programs next year.
Well, that's fantastic. And is it growing right now by word of mouth mostly? Or are you, yeah, that's fantastic. So
it's great. I think it really speaks to the product that we're solving and the market where over 70% of our growth is through word of mouth.
That's fantastic.
We'll be spending marketing next year, but it's been really great to grow.
Right. And I'm sure that listeners to this podcast, we definitely have an international element here, and they'll be very interested in this service. So I'm very glad that I was able to talk to you. But so for the moment, your intention is to grow it out.
Yep.
That sounds good. So you're doing exactly what you came to business school for, really.
It is nice to look back and realize that it's easy. It's never easy to start a company, and so it's easy to look back and be like, oh yeah, what a great idea, and now that we're doing this. But it was very hard to get the contract that we got and to get that we had. And so I would give anyone advice who's interested in entrepreneurship that you will feel like you're pushing through a brick wall many times before you break through, and it's really worth it in that long run, but it's not an easy process.
No, it's not. And you also, when you're in the midst of it, you tend to, because you're in a role where you're solving problems, you tend to see the problems more than the successes. And it's only when you step back and you say, wait a minute, this is working right. And this is pretty good, actually, or this, that you can get that vantage point. But because you're in the weeds so frequently, again, dealing with the problems, those are the things staring you in the face. But is there anything you would have liked me to ask you that I haven't asked you?
It's a great question. I think that I don't have an answer off the top of my head. But I think that if I were to just talk about what Connected Mobile is and what it does, I'd love to help our listeners understand. So what we're doing is we're essentially democratizing cell phone service for individuals, and we're breaking down a lot of those barriers for people to access. We were able to get the contract by sharing how difficult it was for international students, but actually a lot of our customers today are people who've been in the US for years, and whether they're on their own plan or they were on their family's plan, it's really valuable for people to move over. Actually, a lot of our business is people who were paying for their own plan with a different provider, and so it's actually very easy to move over your cell phone number. It only takes 5 minutes. That's a good thing to share. It only takes 5 minutes to keep your phone number. So for anyone interested, we can definitely bring you on board, whether you're with somebody else right now or not.
I'm kind of laughing and smiling because I have some kids well into their 30s who are married, and they and their spouses are on our family plan because it was just less expensive. And they do reimburse us, and there is just what you described, figuring out who owes what, and if they need to get a new phone, we have to be involved and all that good stuff. So I can see where not just international students could welcome this service.
I think that's why this segment has been overlooked for so long, is that people aren't experiencing this for themselves because most people just stay on family plans and they come up with whatever reimbursement arrangement they're most comfortable with. But for the majority of people, they're not necessarily experiencing the same thing, which is why it hadn't been tackled until today.
Well, I think you're doing a great job in tackling it, and it sounds like a wonderful service. So I think we're just about out of time, and I want to thank you very much for joining me and sharing your MBA and entrepreneurial success story with listeners and with me. Where can listeners find out more about saving money with ConnectEd and getting better service?
Absolutely. Go to www.connectedmobile.co. That's just connectedmobile.co.
Okay, great. We'll link to connectedmobile.co from the show notes at accepted.com/329. And again, Andie, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Listener, thank you too for joining Andie Kaplan and me for Admissions Straight Talk's 329th episode. If you find the show worthwhile, I have a favor to ask. Please tell your friends about the podcast. Your doing so helps us spread the news about Admissions Straight Talk. Final reminder, if you are applying to Wharton and either missed our live Get Accepted to Wharton webinar or want to review the information, go directly to accept.com/329 webinar and download the webinar recording today. Thanks again for coming. This is Admissions Straight Talk produced by Accepted, and I am your host, Linda Abraham. I'll talk to you again next week.